still think McLarens look a little weird with no rear spoiler. There's a little bit of a lip there, but it looks a little naked. I do like that they finally put the seat controls on the outside, and in the one-piece Club Sport buckets, it's got adjustable lumbar control, made for me. The rest of the car is pretty great looking, I think. Definitely an evolution of the existing design language. Nothing totally revolutionary now, but the nice organic shapes and the huge air intakes and the flying buttresses are all pretty cool. The steering wheel adjustment moves the instrument cluster and the steering wheel as one, so you're never going to block the steering. Kind of odd they use an electric adjust on a car that's supposed to be lightweight, but I guess it works. Ergonomics wise, the drive and reverse controls are here, engine start. There's a touchscreen with a single selector knob that just does selection and volume, and everything else is touchscreen. I do not like that the climate controls are on the screen. That's kind of a pain in the butt, but overall the infotainment system is much more modern. The mode selectors have gone up here to the top of the instrument panel, which I guess is okay, but it means that they won't stay in a position once you turn the car off.
Excellent. So all you do, foot on the brake, press drive, and we are good to go. So we'll head right down here, take a right on the registered arrow.
That is very odd.
What?
The complete silence?
I know, right? Good to go, straight out, and you're all set. Perfect. So the idea is, you leave your house in the morning and leave your restaurant wherever. You have to disrupt everyone. Then once you get out onto the road, and that kicks on, blends right in, and goes to what we expect. Sounds a little different though. Yeah. 3-liter V6, 120 degrees, so it's not a flat 6, but it's getting there. It's breaking the difference.
Catch the car a little flat-footed here.
Yeah, love them. 360 cameras. Absolutely.
The exhaust note isn't nearly as bad as I thought it might be. It's a little boring and not super exotic sounding, but it's definitely not bad. You can see here I'm playing with the suspension settings on the left side of the instrument binnacle. The comfort mode rides really well, and sport mode definitely rides a bit busier, but gives you additional control. It's a very nice setup.
Alright, I'm back in the GT3 now. First impressions of the Artura. First of all, it feels heavy for a McLaren. It's not a heavy feeling car, but definitely doesn't have that ultra lightweight feel that my 600 LT had. The ride quality on the McLaren is very good. I forgot how bumpy this road was, and getting back in the GT3 reminded me of that. Sound-wise, the McLaren actually doesn't sound bad. I can't say that I hate the way it sounds. I don't love it, but I also don't hate it. It sounds exotic, it's decently loud, it's bassy at low RPMs, has a nice higher RPM sound. Doesn't sound as good as the 600 LT, which doesn't sound as good as any Ferrari. So, not a great sound. I think the GT3 even sounds a decent amount better. The handling wise, the McLaren turns in really nicely. The closer to hydraulic steering that the McLaren has more feeling and is just better than the GT3. It turns in better, has a lower moment of inertia. The acceleration of the McLaren is definitely better. McLaren is superior acceleration wise by a decent margin. I was a little surprised. I mean, I guess it does have nearly 200 more horsepower than this car, but it is noticeable how much faster it is. Power-wise, really liked the torque fill. It's definitely easy to catch the 600 LT at off boost, so stomping on the gas at 3,000 RPM really didn't do a whole lot, and it feels pretty good in the McLaren, in the Artura. It has a much more natural torque curve because of that. It doesn't have a rush of a turbo, although it's still pretty quick at the top end. The Artura is also geared really tall. It's geared even taller than the GT3. Yeah, naturally aspirated motors sound better. Surprising how much better the McLaren rides than this car, though. This road that I just drove in the Artura felt way less bumpy in that car. That's pretty interesting. In comfort mode, the car still felt really well damped, but soaked up bumps really well. The brakes on the McLaren, McLaren does interesting things with brakes. They have a decent initial bite, and then it feels like the car's not really stopping. Once you get used to it, it definitely allows you to modulate the brakes really nicely. You're not overslowing or underslowing, but there's a lot of pedal pressure required. You're putting more pressure on the brake than in most cars, and the first impression is that it feels very non-responsive at first. And definitely driving around the city, you'll probably have a few moments of, oh crap, where it feels like the car's not stopping. Yeah, it will. It just takes more leg pressure than you're normal to, and you'll probably end up with the nose halfway into a stop intersection. I ride it a few times. Once you get into the brakes, they're powerful. They modulate really nicely, and you've got a good amount of control in terms of stopping power versus pressure. Ergonomically, the McLaren is pretty good. McLaren does a good job of making cars that actually fit me. There are a few things that are weird. The seat sits too high up off the floor. Easy solution there is get the very comfortable Club Sport buckets that are one piece and are adjustable and have lumbar support. That's probably the way I would order the car. I'm playing with a seat adjustment in the Club Sport buckets on the Artura. When you adjust the height, it actually rotates the seat almost like it's on a swivel, so that as you lower it, it reclines a little more too. Plus, buckets with adjustable lumbar support. Oh, this car is made for me. The The standard seats are comfortable, but they do not adjust low enough, so you feel like you're sitting a little bit on top of the car. Definitely prefer the seats in this car from that perspective. There's a lot of modernization and just getting in line with the rest of the industry with the interior. There's a button now for the nose lift rather than it being on one of the stalks and in a confusing position that did something else sometimes. The infotainment is way better. It has 360-degree cameras, which are really nice. The seat adjustments are on the left side instead of on the right side where they're really hard to see. And yeah, the car's ergonomically pretty good. I really enjoyed it. Don't know if I enjoyed it price delta wise and depreciation wise, but certainly enjoyed the drive.
Here you can see I've switched on the electric mode and the car's gas engine shuts off and it's running on just the electric mode now. It's quiet, it's really slow. Prius would probably beat it at this point, but you can drive around on completely electric power if you want to.
This is only our third day of doing test drives in these. This is still taking me a bit of getting used to, just to feel being in a McLaren silently.
Overall, I'm trying to think about how to wrap this up. Really like the car, definitely has great power, has really nice presence in the street. It could definitely use a spoiler. The exhaust note is not super inspiring, but it's decent and appropriate for the class of the car. Ergonomically, it's decent, especially with the Club Sport buckets, and it drives pretty well. I do like the car a lot. Might have to wait for the LT version though. Thanks for listening.